Welcome to the Podcast Discovery Show, a podcast that's about other podcasts, where each week we talk about a podcast, and at the end of the episode, we're going to recommend a brand new episode for next week. I am Zach.
And I am Matt Walker.
And this week we are talking about a show called Assorted Goods. And on Assorted Goods, host Dan Felton every week breaks down a specific topic with a really high level of research so that he is better understanding some of the things that sometimes you would miss in life. And the episode specifically we're talking about is called Overrated. And it's about how everything in our life at this point is based on a 5-star rating and review system. And he gets into a lot of the detail of it and explains some things to me that I was not at all anticipating. Matt, how did you like the show?
I liked it a lot. It's, we're embroiled in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's one of those things you cannot avoid. So it's interesting to hear like the numbers and the reasons and all the stuff you maybe already know.
Yeah.
The obvious stuff, but how it actually affects people,
Yeah, and so some of these were extremely odd. He really does first of all, the show sounds great, very well produced.
Oh, yes.
And very, very well researched, because the first quarter of the show is him breaking down studies of not just like how many things are currently affected or using a rating and review process, but more how are people interacting with these reviews? How are the reviews affecting how we're making decisions?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. A lot of wide-eyed like looks to you like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah, because some of these they kind of make sense, but in some ways not. Younger people are more likely to be affected by there being reviews. They're more likely to go with kind of how the reviews are telling them to go. Older people, less likely to do it. They kind of feel confident in their purchasing wisdom or whatever, I guess.
Yeah, their wisdom of old age.
Yeah, they're like, I am far too wise to look at these reviews. But so that one kind of makes sense. There was a crazy number in here that 48% of people won't use something that is rated under 4 stars.
That's crazy.
It's that seems extreme to just like hardline, no, get out of here.
Because that's so funny, because it's 3 is like middle of the road.
Yeah, that's like a B.
Yeah,
that's not a C. That's a B. They're getting a B. Yeah, it's pretty hardcore. One of the crazier ones to me was 79% of people thought that reviews were as trustworthy as word of mouth from someone that they personally know and is close to them. And that has never been my experience at all.
Right?
At all. Like, I do not get that. But first of all, okay, I feel like we do need to talk about, do you do like a deep dive on reviews on things that you want to buy? Because I definitely do that.
I do, but I know that it's not, that most of them probably aren't even real.
Yeah.
I know that, and I still go through them, because usually when I'm looking for something, I know exactly what I'm looking for, and I just don't know how to like express that or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Google it. So I'm going through these things, seeing if someone has the exact same scenario that I'm having.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, works for this, but I never do. And the other stat that he said, which was like the average user only needs 6 or 7 before deciding whether to buy the product.
They said between 1 and 6. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, that's probably about right for me too, because I read about 6 or 7 and I go, these aren't helpful.
I have 2 different ways I approach this. If it's something like an HDMI cable, mm-hmm. or something normal, something where it's like, okay, I'm spending under $20, kind of just, I'll read a couple. Okay, it seems fine, buy it. If it's something that's like a big spend or something I've been looking at for a while, I'm going to pour through those reviews. And not because I think that every single one of them is trustworthy. I'm looking for specific things that tell me whether this review makes sense to me.
Yes, that's a big part of it too, isn't it?
I feel like that is maybe something that it would be very hard to quantify and like include in his stats,
mm-hmm.
But being able to see bias in reviews, because the thing is, we've been exposed to them for so long now. We've seen so many reviews of everything, because, and don't get me wrong, I do, when I'm planning on a big purchase, like the microphones I'm using, the recorders we use for the show, any kind of electronics. I'm looking at reviews for a long time, reading through, seeing what people's problems with it are. But when you do that, you can definitely see people who are just not helpful at all.
It'll be like, this isn't what I ordered. And it's like, well, what do you think you were ordering? And that's what I don't, that's the kind of thing that it bothers me, is when it's like, this isn't what I wanted. And it's like, why didn't you read the reviews?
Yeah, no, there is a lot of that. And there's a lot of, like, you'll see a lot of negative reviews on, like, they sent me something that I think is used, or I accidentally broke this and they won't give me a new one. Like, there's all kinds of reasons why there could be negative reviews too.
Yeah. And like, those ones are real, like, honest,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is up to the par that they set, know? And then it's like, then there's other ones that are like, this isn't what I wanted. It's like, well, that's not.
It's like, that doesn't really seem to be on them.
That's on you, my friend. That's user error.
You ordered it. But
exactly.
No, I do think there's some element of having to be able to discern whether a review is useful or not, because I think there's a lot that are not. And okay, so for example, I have found several reviews through I'll throw out a couple of these throughout the episode. But I bought a chef's knife a long time ago, and I bought it just because I was like, I'm gonna try cooking better. I'm gonna try and be better at this. And it's just called a Victorinox Pro Chef's Knife. It's like $40 on Amazon. It has very high reviewed, like 10,000 reviews, 4.8, going great.
Hey.
I have had it for years now, and like it's consistent. I sharpen it before I use it, not like with a whetstone, but I sharpen it. It's good to go. The vast majority of the 1-star reviews are, this knife is not sharp, and it's like, there seems like there's something that you can do to address that. You need to sharpen your knife. And so, if you were to only look at the negative reviews here, then you would think, oh, they're going to send me a not sharp knife, but that's not even a real complaint. You can sharpen a knife,
right?
So that's an example. I was trying to think of something that I have purchased off Amazon and just loved it the whole time, and this knife was one of them. And I wanted to just see, okay, where are the haters at? That's what I need to see. I need to hear from you guys.
Well, and what's crazy about that 1-star review saying that this knife is not sharp is that's a damning, like, review for a knife.
Yeah.
And it's not even like a thing that they can do about it.
Yeah, no, somebody could read that and be like, well, I'm not getting a knife that's not sharp. That's dumb.
Yeah, I don't need a not sharp knife.
I already have plenty of those at all.
Yeah, this is why I'm looking for a new knife.
But yeah, no, it's really wild. And I'll go ahead and do the shameless plug here, because I think that we should also talk about this. Both Matt and I are very involved in the review side of things, also from a creative standpoint. So Matt, check him out at MW Walker, fantastic artist. So he has done artwork, like physical artwork. He sings and he does comedy and things like that. And then obviously he talks about a lot in this episode, kind of the podcast specific stuff. And a lot of these things that we've done these things as well, like review swaps. And we also got into kind of, it's almost like meta, because our show in itself is essentially a review show.
Right.
We don't call it that because we don't like doing reviews. There was a few episodes where we would do reviews, but they were stupid. Like it would like Whose Line Is It Anyway style, where we would pick some random obscure thing that they got that many of, and then it wasn't a normal review. We just threw out something at the end. We eventually stopped that. But really, what we like to consider more of like a spotlight, where we talk about shows we like. We're not trying to grill anybody. We're not trying to be like, this gets a 4 out of 5. We're not trying to do any of that. But we are talking about shows. We are, and honestly, our goal from the beginning was to be able to bring awareness to small indie shows by talking about them on our show. And with that comes people will literally message our account and be like, hey, you should cover my show. And we were forced to kind of think about this. Like, does that kind of defeat the purpose of what we're trying to do? If we were to just kind of take suggestions, because then is the next thing that, okay, you pay us $30 and we will review your show. We wanted to kind of stay away from all that. So for the most part, we just don't do it. Yeah. Like if anybody sends us hey, you should check out my show, we might. And if it's a great one, we might do it. There, like a lot of times we just won't even look at it because it kind of ruins the integrity of what we're trying to do.
Right. It's almost like Facebook pages.
Yeah.
When your multitudes of friends on Facebook send you an invite to like their page. I've gotten so many of those that I stopped liking them unless I'm like, this is good,
Mm-hmm.
you know? But it's one of those things where it's like, you got to ask. It's because it's so built in
Yeah.
to being successful doing any of this stuff that it's like, well, I guess I should ask Joe Rogan,
Yeah.
if he can check my pod out.
It's not, yeah, it's not, there's no knocking that hustle. Like, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
It's tough. It's so hard. And on the receiving end of it, it's just like, I want you to succeed, person, whoever. I think everyone should succeed. I don't want it to hinder anybody, but it's also like, I don't know. I don't really like it.
Yeah.
But it's that same thing of like, if I had a bad experience with a thing, I'm just not going to tell anybody, hey, go to that place. Like, I went to a place last night for food. I found like 3 hairs in my food. I'm not going to name the place because it's good. Like, I know that my experience was not indicative of the entirety of most people's experiences. I had a bad one. I did. No one else is probably going to have 3 hairs in their food.
Yeah.
Like,
it seems unlikely. That's a lot, even for not a great place.
Right.
To have 3
I
in
know,
there.
right? I was like, ooh. But it's just like, I'm not going to tell anybody about it. And if I had a product that wasn't very good or whatever, I'm not going to. Well, I guess this is why I'm probably not successful. Because I'm like, well, I wouldn't tell many people about it. I'd let people find it.
Yeah.
No,
and I mean, I guess I would have to have an extremely negative experience to go out of my way to do it. Like,
yeah,
I will say that I'm maybe part of the problem there. In when I buy stuff from Amazon, they always ask me, "Hey, do you want to review this? Did you have a good time with buying this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm good on that." But at the same time, I feel like I would have to have an extremely negative experience to go on there and roast something, like regardless of a product or a restaurant or anything like that.
Like, we had a really terrible experience with Priceline. Like, we went to a hotel and it was just not great. They weren't following any like COVID stuff. We were in the front way. People were walking in without masks and they were just like, hey, they'd just be hanging out in there. We were like, okay. And we went up to a room and it was really bad. And it was small. It was like kind of like wet, very humid in there.
I was about to say, it's not a word you want to describe your hotel room. It's slight wetness to it.
And it was right next to a stairwell and the door was just opening and closing all day. So loud. We went down. We were like, can we move rooms? And they're like, no. And we're like, that's fine. Like, we're just going to check out then. We checked out. And then they're like, you got to contact Priceline for the refund. We did. And Priceline's like, oh, you should have. We spoke with the hotel and they're not going to give you a refund. We're like, wait, what? That is so messed up. What are you talking about? They told us to call you for a refund. And they're like, yeah, but we have to call them and they have to give us a refund. Like, what in the world? And I just want to tell everybody about this because I'm like, that's bad business practice.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's
but it's like anything beyond that. It's like we weren't reviewing and saying the room was gross or whatever.
Yeah,
we didn't like the room. We could have, very easily. But like, that's not probably most people's experiences. And us being kind of privy to the notion that the world doesn't revolve around us, like, we're not going to leave 0-star reviews saying how crappy a place is.
Yeah,
we just know that like, other people probably like it.
Yeah, no, it's there's a chance for everybody to find something that they'll think is good that other people won't. So I like to leave some of that space where people can do that.
Right.
But essentially, it's just interesting to see how much all this affects us because it affects me too. Like, I read these things and like we ask people to subscribe or like and subscribe the podcast, leave a rating and review, all that stuff. But we've gotten anonymous 1-star reviews. We've gotten people. We read the reviews, but we always kind of took it as a grain of salt. But at the same time, if it's an actual complaint, just go with that. You know what I mean? You can always like look at it as a chance for like it to be constructive criticism and to make the show better. And so we've always done that too.
I really just think that the problem with it is like, why do we have to ascribe a number system that then dictates whether or not something succeeds? You know, because someone can give the pod constructive criticism and you guys can adjust on it, but you're still going to have that negative review.
Yeah.
And it's going to negatively affect you for the entirety of forever.
Yeah, I think really maybe the solution there is find some other way to kind of aggregate results that isn't based on just number of reviews, because that's the only reason people want it. You know, if it wasn't like if you had X amount of reviews, you'd be at the top of a list, then nobody would care at all. You know, but it's become a huge thing, and it's become a huge thing for Yelp at restaurants, huge thing for movies on like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. And Rotten Tomatoes kind of went the Netflix route of, we're not doing the 5-star thing. We're like, did you like was this a good movie? Did you like watching it? And not like pick a number type system.
That's even tougher.
Yeah.
You either liked it or most people didn't like it.
Yeah.
Well, why?
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing, is it's not the numerical values don't have nuance in there.
Yeah.
And like, you can't. The worst is when someone just says 1 star and nothing. You're like, I don't even know how to help. Like, I don't know. I don't even know how to fix that for you.
Yeah. I will say that there is some element of that, because like you get a 1-star anonymous review and you're just like,
why'd they do that?
I have questions.
Yeah.
But I can't ask you because I don't know who you are.
It's crazy. It's crazy to me.
But yeah, so I have a couple more examples here. And
please.
To be fair, I also realize that art is subjective. And there are things that some people associate with and other people won't. And that is fine. That's part of the thing. But I would like to read you a film review. And you can see if you can guess what film this is after I describe it to you. This movie has to be the most overrated movie of all time. I don't understand why everyone raves about this movie. It's boring. The acting is shallow and weak. The whole premise is annoying. And I had to fight off sleep 3 times to finish this quote-unquote movie. This movie has 2 layers: boring, barely audible speech, and explosions. I didn't think it to be possible. That's messing me up, okay. But even the explosions were boring. Where does the fascination for this movie come from? This is going to blow it, I think, a little bit. Marlon Brando may have been a good early actor, but this "I'll make him an offer he can't refuse" old man voice is so irritating, I almost threw my DVD out the window. However, the movie ended up numbing all my extremities so that it was impossible to move, as I had no choice but to sit on in horror. I'm sorry I ever wasted my time on this piece of garbage with a weak premise, ludicrous character designs, and a plot that could cure insomnia. Godfather Sleeps with the Fishes. 1 out of 10.
What? I feel like they didn't even see the movie.
It makes me wonder about this too, because like
explosions? Are there that many explosions?
There's like one. Isn't it just the one where they blow up a car, right? I don't know. But it's crazy because, first of all, I saw another one of these. It's like the acting's terrible. It's like this movie, pretty much everyone in it was nominated for an acting award. Like,
and has gone on to just bigger and better things as well.
So there's and honestly, my favorite one, I found 4 reviews for the White Album by the Beatles that literally tell you all you need to know about Amazon reviews. Okay. Number 1, Randy W. I didn't order anything. 1 star.
What?
Yeah. He just said, I didn't order anything. No. That was the title is no.
Oh, so is this when
they're buying it on
Amazon review and they say, would you like to review this?
I guess. And he's like, no, 1 star.
Yes, I'll review it. I didn't order anything.
1 star. No. Okay.
Weird.
Here's I won't do his full name because that's actually his name. This album takes me back. The first time I heard this album, I was living near the hills in Southern California. It was Christmas time and it had been raining for 4 days, and there was danger that a dam up on the hills was going to overflow. I played this album for the next 2 days it rained. This is a classic. You must have it in your collection. 1 star. Okay.
Did he think it was like golf reviews?
This is literally in a row.
Oh my God.
Okay. Watch what you buy and email the seller to be sure is the title of this review. I was under the impression these were CDs with a green apple on them. They were not. They were the original Parlophone releases. They were in good condition, but were misrepresented. Boo, in parentheses. 1 star.
Wait, what?
I don't know.
Apple? What?
I don't know why they thought there was going to be an Apple on it. I mean, I guess because they had like the Apple Studio or whatever they call it. Okay, final one. It took me 46 years to buy this album. Had I listened to it first, however, I would have never purchased it. It is one of the worst examples of Beatle music I have ever heard. Most of the pieces are shorts, fill-ins just to fill up the CD. I will probably give it to Goodwill. I surely will not keep it. 1 star.
Wow.
So that's 4 1 stars in a row, one of which was clearly he didn't order anything. The second, he loved it and still gave it a 1 star. He's like, literally the last line, you must have in your collection, 1 star. The third one didn't like the CD they got. And the fourth one just doesn't like the White Album. So that is why you should always be careful with reviews because it's wildly inconsistent.
Yeah, and do your research when you buy something. Listen to it. You can listen to this on Spotify.
You can listen to
dingus.
the White Album on pretty much anything.
Yeah.
You can really find it.
What is this guy? Took me 40 years to purchase the album. Like, just listen to it on YouTube even, my dude.
I mean, that's how you know they're an older generation.
And that's what we were talking about is even though younger people seem to be more influenced by the reviews, I wonder if there's a statistic that I don't think he said one, but of who's leaving the reviews. Because I bet that it's mostly older people leaving the reviews.
It seems like it, especially if they're anything like us where they just can't be bothered with doing that.
Yeah.
No, I would say that like it's probably generally a fairly older demographic that's the ones consistently leaving reviews.
That's such an interesting play. Like older folks, that sounds real dumb, but like older people leaving the reviews that then younger people are more influenced by is a really weird concept to me.
It really is. And so I don't know. It's all just crazy, but really in the end, as we were listening to this show, both Matt and I, you could kind of like, it gets your wheels turning because you start thinking about things and sometimes it's like quantifiable or sometimes you start thinking, how is this playing out in my life specifically? How is this really happening? And it was just really, really fun to kind of dig in a little bit.
No, I really enjoy. I did enjoy listening to it. It was one of those things where it'd be like, I wonder this, and it would be like maybe 10 minutes later, and then he kind of addresses that thing. Like, okay, cool. He really does research the hell out of it.
Yes, it's awesome. Very, very highly researched. Assorted Goods has a lot of random stuff too. So some of his more recent episodes, he did one that's about what's happening to your body while you're sleeping. He did one that's about like obsession and dopamine hooked on your phones and things like that. He has a lot of stuff and he really puts the research in. So definitely check out Assorted Goods. It's a really cool show.
I was impressed too. I brought this up, but each thumbnail that he has for each individual episode is a different design, which I'm pretty impressed by.
Yeah. I mean, it's just that you can tell that he puts a ton of work into the show and it pays off. It's a cool show.
Yeah.
So for the recommendation for next week, I found a show this morning that literally I've heard the beginning of it and I was like, okay, this is cool. And it is called In Plain Sight, Lady Bird Johnson. And what this is an ABC audio thing. And Lady Bird Johnson, Lyndon B. Johnson's wife, first lady, and I don't know what they call the vice president's first lady type situation, but
vice first lady.
Yeah, but was once in the vice president's situation, and then JFK was assassinated, and then Lyndon B. Johnson was sworn in because of literally an assassination of a president. And Lady Bird Johnson, his wife, immediately after this started an audio journal. She has 123 hours of audio journaling of how she was involved in this administration. And this entire podcast, through listening to her directly talking about it, breaks down some of her impact and some of her feelings about things. It literally starts with her talking about JFK being assassinated and talking to Jackie Kennedy while she is covered in blood. And like, it's wild. Like, It's a really cool show. So we're gonna start with episode 1. I think they're fairly long episodes, but episode 1 of In Plain Sight, Lady Bird Johnson.
Jeez, that's awesome.
It's a good one. I liked it a lot.
You have a good voice.
Yeah, sounds all nice and old timey.
Oh,
awesome.
I'm excited.
But yeah, so yeah, and remember,
there's always more to discover.
Thank you for listening to the Podcast Discovery Show. We would love for you to get in touch. We have a Facebook group called the Podcast Discovery Club, and our Twitter is @thepdsofficial. We also record the show live every Friday night at 8 o'clock on Twitch. We would love for you to be part of the show while we're recording it.
if you want to support the show, we have a number of ways you can do that. From our Patreon to our affiliate links, they're always linked in the show notes. In the end, you support the show just by listening, and it means the world to us. So thank you so much for being a part of our journey.
This was a podcast from the Podfix Network.